Hi, my name is John Thompson. Today I'm going to be doing for you a PowerPoint presentation on talking too fast. Fast talking is a rapidly growing problem that we face in society and in our workplaces. Projects are affected and major mistakes can happen in meeting a deadline. People with hearing impairments cannot process what you're saying because it's difficult for them to process it because it's at such speed. It makes for unproductive and ineffective communication. Fast talking can also affect the bottom line because you're wasting time repeating yourself when you shouldn't have to, and it may also create mistakes in the project because the points you're trying to make are not clearly understood. So what is talking too fast? It's speaking in such a way that people have difficulty understanding you. It's noise instead of effective communication. It's being in a rush to get the idea out in the open and have people processing with difficulty what you are saying. It's a time-wasting behavior because you have to repeat yourself and make sure that you are being understood. It's also handicapped to people with disabilities. There are people in a corporate setting where you work with disabilities, and not all features on YouTube should be relied on to help people understand what you are trying to say. It's very unfair to also blame them because they can't understand you. It's not the fault of the person trying to listen. It's your fault because you cannot communicate effectively when you need to and when you need to get a project done. So why do you do it? You're busy, there's a deadline. It's what you do when using technology. It's a part of culture you are exposed to. And yes, everything does move quickly in the world. The world is getting faster with access to technology, with texting, as well as talking to people on phones. What does it say about you? This behavior says a lot about you. It says you cannot communicate effectively, and therefore your leadership of a project may be in question. It shows that you don't respect others, you're unprofessional and rude, you are impatient and lack experience to work in an office, and it's inappropriate grade school behavior. You also want it right now instead of making sure that it's right. And sometimes taking those few extra seconds to make sure that somebody understands something in a deadline, it's important. So what can you do? Always be willing to speak in a slower tone. Use short sentences. There are two types of speaking. There's that long, fancy writing type sentence that you use when you're writing a book or performing in a play or doing a thesis or dissertation. It doesn't really work when you have to do a project and you need to communicate. Shorter sentences are very easy to process and very easily understood. It's what they call universal design or universal instructional design. And it's basically taking what you're doing and making it a lot more accessible to people, especially if you have people with disabilities in a workplace. Breathe and pace yourself. If you are in a rush and hyperventilate, you're going to miss something important because your body is trying to breathe and figure out what you have to say at the same time, and it can't do that. If you still lack the confidence, you can always take a public speaking course. Realize that speaking to people is not a race. It's not a race to get your point out right away. Things that require detail require speaking in a way that is to be understood, especially if there's a lot of procedures and if it's a very complicated concept of how to do something that you're trying to show somebody, or if it's something that you have to show your coworkers how to do. The time that you take to slow down and make sure that they understand is going to pay dividends later when the time comes when you review the project, and it will reduce mistakes happening. Also, do not blame people for not understanding you. I've had this happen to me when commenting on a YouTube video. An HR person doing a video on jobs told me it was my fault that I couldn't understand people that talk too fast and that I should use only the features on the YouTube video. It's a very handicapist attitude, and it's not the way you treat your coworkers or you treat people that are working above you as well. It's your fault if you are talking too fast and cannot communicate, and that's going to translate into the project you do. Be aware that this could also be an HR issue because you might not be respecting someone with a disability. That can come back to bite you. There could be legalities involved and possible discrimination lawsuits. So, here are the takeaways. Very simple. Speaking fast is not communicating. It's a counterproductive behavior. Assistive technologies may not perform as well because you're speaking too fast. Speak clearly and use simple sentences. You can communicate and listen and also communicate to be understood. People working with you might have hearing impairments, and they may not always have hearing aids. Some do. I know I have to wear hearing aids, and I've noticed the difference with having a hearing aid, how it's changed my life in processing what people say to me. And again, if you do this, this becomes a performance issue, speaking too quickly, and you may get in trouble with HR.